Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at two of my favorite articles ever out of Dragon Magazine. Dragons 86 and 87. It's the moon of Gamma World. So if Gamma World is Gamma Terra, this would be Gamma Luna. These were two really good issues from June and July of 84, when Dragon was arguably at its peak. This was in the new Aries section that they were doing. It's a dedicated section for science fiction articles, the Aries magazine having folded, and they rolled it into the Dragon magazine. So today we're going to take a look at the life that exists on Gamma Luna and how you can get up there to enjoy it, and a little bit about the campaign. I ran up there years and years ago. So today on page 121, Gamma Luna. Okay, before we get started on the article, I thought we'd take a look at the cover here. This is part of the series of Chessmen covers that was done in the mid-80s. They did 4 or 5 of these. These are some of my absolute favorite Dragon covers of all time. I just really enjoy the idea of the chessmen fighting. So now we go to the Aries section. What is the Aries section? Well, there's the cover for it. It was its own little section, about 16 pages long, that ran for a couple of years in Dragon magazine. The idea was that all the science fiction articles would be sequestered back here, along with Top Secret and things like that. So the rest of the magazine would be devoted to D&D, and our science fiction stuff would be here. They went ahead and did the Marvel file for Marvel superheroes here, where they profiled a bunch of different Marvel superhero heroes and villains. And I didn't play that game, but I did play Champions. So believe me, I read the Marvel superheroes articles as well. So here we are, a world gone mad, the moon of Gamma World, or Gamma Luna. So basically, the moon base that was set up on Luna was set up at the Tycho crater in the far distant year of 2014. Yes, this article was written in 1984, so that was 30 years in the future. Who knew we had a base on the moon by 2014? So it was determined that on this base and on the moon itself, a maximum population of 50,000 people could be sustained. The idea being that you had to bring in so many supplies that it wasn't practical to have a population over that, and 50,000 could see to all the needs of the base and all the projects going on the base and things like that. So we have 50,000 people up on the moon base, living their lives happily. Some people, having never been to Terra, have lived their entire lives on the moon base in Tycho Center. And then in the year 2322, all good things must come to an end. And that's when the people on the moon watched Earth's civilization go down in war, plague, and a host of other disasters that started at the start of the social wars. As the wars were raging, some colonists said, look at that, Earth's gone, that's a shame. We're staying right here. Other colonists said, I've got family down there, I'm going down there. Others said, hey, we're going to need supplies. I'm going to go down there and grab some supplies before they're gone. So off go bubble cars down to Earth. Most never return. Some do. The ones that do, unfortunately, contain all kinds of weird germs and bacteria and things like that from the social wars and infect the moon base. In short order, the moon base is wiped out. Our final survivor of the moon base, the last man still alive, is Ren Odinson. Great name. He's the colony's commander. He's in his command chair, and he says, well, we're all going to die, but I'm going to set this thing on auto, and I'm going to tell the cybernetic installation that runs the Luna base to keep things going, keep the experiments maintained as they are, maintain the plants, to hold the base in trust against the time that people from Earth will be able to return. Setting the controls, then Odinson dies in his command chair. Fast forward to 2360. By this point, the irradiated plant life in the hydroponics section has mutated wildly and grown fantastically and taken over the entire section and spread to other sections. The cybernetic installation, in keeping with its final orders, goes ahead and continues to water and feed the plants, which of course continue to grow and grow. The CI, cybernetic installation, decides that it has to plow a 3-meter wide path through the section of the plant so it can get in for ordinary maintenance and care. It costs it 3 maintenance robots a month to plow this lane through the plants. The plants are intelligent. They're very self-defensive. Some are actively hostile. So this is pretty bad. This could be potentially the end of the base. But wait a minute. over in some of the other labs, the medical labs, some microbes have grown huge. The radiation and bacteria, whatever, have affected them. I don't know if bacteria affects microbes. I rather doubt it. But whatever the cause, it's Gamma World. They've grown huge and become macrobes. Still one-celled creatures, just really, really big ones. The Star Trek episode, The Immunity Syndrome, leaps to mind. And these creatures are also intelligent and aggressive and maintained by the cybernetic installation and continue to overrun their section. The cybernetic installation has to keep a maintenance path through this section as well, and it costs it, this path costs the cybernetic installation 9 worker robots a month. So the robots are getting chewed up like crazy by the plants, getting chewed up like crazy by the macrobes, and then one day, of course, the plants and the macrobes bump into each other, and war commences, since they're both fighting for the same ecological niche, that is the moon base itself. It's only logical that the plants and the macrobes would start fighting. This was really cool because it's honestly something I'd never thought about for Gamma World. I've never really gave the moon any thought. I'd been playing Gamma World by this time about a little over 3 years, and I never really gave it any thought as to what the moon might have done or if there had been a base or anything like that. So it was pretty interesting to read this article in the background on Tycho Center and then adventuring in Tycho Center. And in this adventure, and this is just really an adventure hook, there's nothing drawn out or anything. The adventure hook has it that several cryptic alliances have found these old bubble cars that came to Earth from Tycho Center but didn't make it back. And coincidentally, within a few days of each other, all go back up to Tycho Center. So now you're dealing with the plants, the macrobes, and the cryptic alliances. Oh, quick note on cryptic alliances. Cryptic alliances are something that popped up in 2nd edition Gamma World, a little bit in 1st in some articles. But basically, these are different power groups within the Gamma World setting. So you have the Knights of Genetic Purity, who believe only pure strain humans should continue to live. The Healers, who, regardless of species or anything, you should be healed and taken care of. And there are many others. I will do a future video on the cryptic alliances in Gamma World. Some of them were a lot of fun and play a big part in my campaign. So in this, a bunch of cryptic alliances have made it up to Tycho Center at the same time as you guys show up in your bubble car. Now, I didn't do that in the game I ran. I had it be that there were survivors of the original colony who'd been affected and mutated, one of whom was still an original colonist. One of the things he was gifted with, cursed with, however you want to play it, it was a longevity, a much longer lifespan. So this poor guy was kind of stuck up there. He'd gone insane, but was one of the original colonists. And I believe I made it Ren Odinson. And then I had some others where some colonists had survived and passed on different genetic traits and mutations to their progeny. So we had 3 factions up on the moon. We had the mutated humans. I didn't have any pure strain humans still alive. Mutated humans, the plants, the macrobes, and then of course a couple of cryptic alliances the couple of cryptic alliances would show up, and that was the kind of the brawl on the moon. I did several games on the moon in my early Gamma World campaign, right around the time this article came out. It's a great gaming environment. Very hazardous. You can expose the different sections to vacuum. Suddenly you have players that are sealed off. They have to try to figure out spacesuits, maybe move around in their bubble car from section to section, hooking up to airlocks. It was just a lot of fun. It's a fun environment to game in. They don't give you any kind of map or anything for it. It's just suggested that you draw out your own. The base is so sprawling, they didn't feel that they could do a map of decent quality in this size offering. So this is the idea behind it. It would be a high-level, quote-unquote, Gamma World campaign. In other words, you better have pretty well-equipped player characters up here or they're going to die fast. Most of this stuff is really nasty. Okay, now we're on to Dragon number 87 from July of 1984. A fine cover by Jack Crane. And now we go to the Ares section, and we are on the field guide for lunar mutants. A quick side note about Gamma World. I ran and still run an active Gamma World campaign. I have to admit, my Gamma World campaign is not comprehensive, and we have gone with large gaps between playing Gamma World. Sometimes we just don't get the opportunity to get Gamma World in. Other times we'll play it, but we'll only play for a week or two. We don't play Gamma World nearly what we used to. My old campaign, I used to run with my group back right through when these articles were published and even beyond it. I also ran Gamma World at that club I've talked about in the past. That club met 12 times a year, the third Monday of every year from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And at that club, I would DM primarily, but what I would do is I would DM D&D 10 days or 10 meetings a year, and that would be set in my Greyhawk campaign. And then one of the meetings a year, I would play as a player character in somebody else's game. And then one meeting a year, I would run Gamma World. The months I ran Gamma World were quite wild and loud at my table. I usually had about 15 players at my table at that club. Sometimes with Gamma World, I'd have anywhere around 18 or 20. I'd have a bunch of pre-made characters, and we'd just kind of go at it. Gamma World proved to be very popular at that club, but I think it was because I ran it so infrequently. I think that helped keep it popular. But here we go. The first thing we're going to look at is we've got the Macrobes and Plants of Tycho Center, again by James Ward, and this is a follow-up to the previous article. We'll take a look at the Macrobes. We have 3 of Macrobes and 3 plants. The first Macrobe is the Sword Macrobe. This guy can vibrate his little sword tendril, and it acts like a vibroblade, which is really nasty. It's got anti-life leech too, which basically keeps you from using life leech. Life leech is a great power. You kind of stand in the middle of a group of creatures, and each creature surrounding you loses 1d6 points of damage that gets added to you as phantom hit points or healing, depending on what your status is. Life leech is one of the more sought-after mutations in Gamma World. So then we have the Ball Macrobe. This guy can throw different seed balls at you. They explode and put spores into you. And then we have the Eye Macrobe. This guy does have Life Leech, so he can Life Leech, and he can be right next to a Sword Macrobe who is anti-Life Leech, and they're fine. He won't get his buddy, but he'll get you. Life Leech is a tremendous power. And now we get the mutated plants, which we have the Coner. This guy shoots little exploding acorns, if you will. And then we get the Rozoid. These plants are able to walk and are pretty intelligent. So they're kind of the planners and leaders of the Tycho base plants. And then we have a Shooter, which looks like a big dandelion, but as the name says, has different tendrils, has different spines that shoot, and it can implant a seed and things like that. So pretty basic, but we get 6 nice little quote-unquote monsters here, which was also always welcome for Gamma World. There had not been a ton of support to Gamma World to this point. This is 2nd edition. We had only seen Gamma World 1st edition in 2 modules, and 2nd edition would also only see 2 modules, and both editions got a DM screen. That was it. So not a ton of information for Gamma World other than in Dragon Magazine. Dragon Magazine, fortunately, did frequent articles about Gamma World, so I enjoyed that. So there is Gamma Luna. As I said, I had Cryptic Alliances up there, but I also had Survivors or Descendants of the original colony, mutated, but up there, and my player characters, of course, in their bubble car. And I ran this probably as a 4 or 5 part game where we just explored the moon, and there was even a point where they went back to Earth because they had a little base, and they needed some supplies out of the base, so they went back to the base and then took the bubble car right back up to Earth, or up to the moon. So it was a fun little campaign. It ended up that the plants and Macrobes were still struggling over supremacy when they left the base. One other quick thing I want to show, this is about the moon, of course, of Earth in Gamma World. I did the moon of Luna, A Traveler's Guide, The Moon and Traveler, an excellent article by Mark Miller. I took a look at this article a few months ago on my channel. They did a whole set of these with the moon in various games. I thought this was a very clever tie-in where we would get a look at the moon set in different settings and very different peaks at the moon. So again, this, in my opinion, was when Dragon Magazine was still at its peak. Here we have a nice Star Frontiers game about the Interstellar Police. There's our nice little cover. So that's all I wanted to really say about Luna Terra, or Gamma Luna. That's hard to say. Gamma Luna today. Please leave any comments or polite criticisms below. If you liked what you heard, please like and subscribe. The channel continues to grow. I want to thank everybody for that. If you have any suggestions for future Gamma World videos, please leave them below. I'd be interested in reading them. I do read as many comments as I possibly can. So go ahead and put them below, and I'll definitely consider it. So that's all I've got today from page 121. Thank you for your time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.